Now you have 2 more key points that you'd like to cover?
Yes. Let's see. The mini goals we got to. Balance in life. That's an important one. Let's picture an equilateral triangle with 3 equal sides. Everybody has different spheres in their life. So let's talk about the life sphere, which is the balance of yourself, your family or your partner, and your work. Okay, they should be equally balanced, and then one has peace and contentment in life. But if they get out of school, for example, if I overworked and didn't start paying attention to my partner or my children or myself would feel stressed and burn out. My family would be upset, my children would be upset, and it's all out of school. So again, you're always going for balance in these triangles. A second example would be within yourself, your self sphere, which is mind, body, and soul. Again, all 3 should be balanced. For mind, you should always continue to learn and grow mentally. Also, your soul work is having a sense of a higher power in your life. Very important concept when times get tough. And body, important to exercise, eat well, eat nutritiously, and take care of yourself, your image, and what it is you want to portray to the world. So that's 2 examples, and I mentioned several more of the balance triangles. Okay, and then there's a chapter on spirituality, which to me, again, is very important because, again, we are all challenged and we need to be strong and have faith and know that there's lessons in the difficult times. So you want to find the good out of the bad and find, if you can stay calm and stay focused and say, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this, and now what can I do with this? So you're taking a bad situation and finding a lesson or something that was good. So, for example, if you lost a job and you're all upset and you're cursing the gods and why me, and we all want to go into the why me pity attitude. That's human nature. But if you can get away from that and say, okay, well, maybe this was meant to be. I was always thinking of working, in the health department, for example, instead of schools. Whatever the change may be, perhaps this is the message that change is meant to be for you. So, there are no negatives in life if you look at it this way. So this is one, ways to get away from anger. Because anger will only defeat you. Anger will only bring you down. And that's when you get stuck in anger and revenge. That will never work.
Now, I see that the target reading audience for your book is those age 13 and up. But you do have one section that's just for teenagers.
Right.
What are some of the tips that you would give to teenagers?
Okay. I call that Lessons from Mom. I probably have about 35 people around the globe that call me Mom, and it's a very... it's a term I'm very proud of, and it's a term of endearment, not only because, I'm very close with my kids, but their friends and people I have taught and worked in schools and have graduated and wrote me back, and kids that didn't have moms and kind of looked at me as that role model. So that's what I call it, advice from Mom. And I start out with some of the hard times I went through, and I remember them. I felt, very lonely as a teen. I felt very shy. I didn't feel good enough. There were times I just felt I didn't measure up, and then eventually I got into modeling, and that gave me a sense of self-esteem, and being out and working in the Philadelphia community where I grew up in Huntington Valley suburbs, went to lower Moreland schools. But with all of that, how I got through all those times of being teased, being bullied. We didn't have these great anti-bullying programs that we have now in the schools. Nobody really cared. They just said, well, that's life, in the schools. And it was hard. And I remember feeling very sad and very depressed at times. So I told how I got over that. And also Alexi explains, despite the great odds of what she wanted to do, to be a singer and a top model, and her own father saying, you'll never be a singer, that's a joke. And he said that right to her face. And again, she said no, and she got focused, and she worked with me, and we got her through that with some positive goal setting. So she talks about how she got over that stigma. And also, other things I talk about in there is, I'd say 1/3 of my practice is working with children and adolescents, other than the work I do in the school. trust their sense of intuition. They're brilliant. I think kids and teenagers are brilliant, and I have a very high respect for them. I always have, I always will. And they are very honest about their feelings. And unfortunately, sometimes the parents just don't want to hear that honesty. So I teach them to communicate it in a calmer manner, because sometimes there's frustration in not being able to speak their minds or not being able to articulate exactly what it is they're trying to say. So I negotiate that with their parents, and if they're trying to get more freedoms, you know, within their household, then I teach them that comes with taking on more responsibility. So that chapter, I think, is written totally with their point of view, telling them, I get it, I remember it, I know what that felt like, and not to give up their dreams, to keep going for it, because they can do whatever it is they dream to do. And I kind of write it from their point of view with that.
Now, also on the flip side, you have a chapter devoted to parenting, especially kids who are upset or angry. Now, what are some of the tips you can give to parents about how to raise their children?
Okay. I'm an avid reader. You know, I've always loved to read. And when I was pregnant with my daughters, and they're 24 and 25 now, I'm sorry, 23, 24, there's an educational method called the Doman method of education that I really took to, and I took it seriously. And the bottom line of that educational method is learning should be fun. And that the age K1 through 5, you can teach them so much before they get into grade K, kindergarten. And those are key years that a lot of parents don't pay attention to. So I took that seriously, and I go into certain games that I did with my children, and by 2 years old they were reading. And I remember walking into public school. I also put them in Montessori school very early. At age 3, I had them in preschool. And we did learning games at home, and we always said games. You want to play the word game, you want to play the math game, and it was always positive. It was always fun time. And they took a lot of joy in getting the answers right, you know. So it always has to be fun, it always has to be a game. So by the time I went to kindergarten, I said, well, what do you teach them in kindergarten? I said, well, this is letter A, and this is letter B, and I held up a Dr. Seuss book. I said, my daughter reads the whole thing. You know, what should I do now? So I kept them in for maturity and social reasons at the age level they should be, but right away they ended up in talented and gifted, which we call LEAP in the school district, and they were LEAP students. But integrating that love of learning early, I really believe was the groundwork for their levels of success. So I do teach the parents about those games. There's another very important technique that I talk about, and I use it at school, and I use it in my therapy practice, and I used it with my own children. And it's part of positive parenting. It's called the STAR chart for children, and I call it an allowance chart if they're teenagers. Now, all teens like money, we know that, and all children like to feel like they're pleasing their parents, and of all ages. So this is how the charts work. Basically, you just make a grid. You look at 6 days out of 7 for the week, and you come up with 5 chores that maybe mom or dad is constantly reminding the kids to do. Make your bed, clean your room, do your homework as soon as you get home from school, feed the dog, whatever those 5 things are. And this works for parents, too, because it takes nagging out of the household, okay, because nobody likes to be nagged, all right? So it's up to the kids if they want to reach their checklist or their stars. So I say everybody has mistakes or a bad day, so you only need to reach, let's say, 24 out of those 30 stars. If you reach 24, Friday's payday. The teenagers get the agreed allowance, let's say it's $10 a week, and the child may get a special outing with mom or something they collect, Pokemon cards or whatever the gig is today that they collect, okay? And so ahead of time, you know what you're striving for. Then in this way, teenagers have money for the movies, or a day out with the guys or whatever. They're earning that as an allowance. So these, they're extrinsic rewards initially, meaning, either an allowance or a toy. But what happens is intrinsic rewards happen, the internal reward of feeling good about a job well done. You're teaching your children responsibility, that if they do their job, just like us as adults, if we do our jobs, we'll get paid on Friday. If you do your job, you'll get paid on Friday. So you're actually teaching them a very good life skill about responsibility and doing your jobs without being asked and doing a good job. And then you'll get rewarded for that, as we do as adults. So it's a skill that teaches a lot of responsibility. And I use this within the Winslow School for some of my children that might be acting up or causing a commotion in the classroom. This works very well with my ADHD kids that have a hard time sitting still and not calling out. And I have charts by the end of the year all over my wall. And I have a relaxation room there also. I'll go into that. But my star chart, they get so proud to come down with their agenda and show me the stamp at the end of the day. Miss Riana, I got a stamp today. And they get the star and they put it on themselves. And at the end of the row, and the end of the 5, they get 5 stars. They go into a treasure chest I have with a little toy, and they get to pick something. And at the end of a whole grid, then they get to pick 4 toys. And it often starts in like 1st, 2nd grade, but I got to tell you, by 3rd grade, there's very few people on the star chart, and they're all behaving in class now. I'd say I only have 2 3rd graders. This is my 3rd year at Winslow. So I've started these kids 1st, 2nd, and the 3rd graders now are doing quite well that were on star charts before. So we see it working. And I know it worked with my children, and I know it works with my children that I have in therapy. So it's a fantastic tool. Give it a go. Any parents out there that are, you know, struggling a little bit with their teenagers or their small children. The relaxation room that I have at school, I think it's a great technique for any counselor. In schools, we have the very bright overhead lights. I don't use them. I have low light lit lamps all over my office. I put a rug in the office to soften it. I do play classical or piano music through the computer. I have some comfortable chairs for them to sit. And on the sign on the door it says Miss Riana's Relaxation Room. And I got to tell you, if I have an upset child with a temper tantrum, they're in that room maybe 30 seconds and they're calm. And I never yell. I am not the disciplinarian of the school. I do not yell. I always, approach a child with a very calm voice. And this is a tip for parents, too, because a positive discipline is extremely important when you're raising your children. Anger and hitting never solves anything. You're only teaching them violence. So you have to remember the word discipline is to teach. So you want to teach your children. You want to be calm with them, because children lie because they're afraid to tell you the truth. So if they're not afraid to tell you the truth, and they know you'll always approach whatever the problem is in a calm way, and together you work through the solution, then you're teaching them the art of negotiation, to apologize when they make a mistake, and we all make mistakes, and that's okay too, but to do, right that mistake. So it's teaching them the skills that they need to, really survive in life. These are all life skills. So it goes into a lot of life skills, not only in the parenting chapter, but throughout the whole book.
Where can people get the book?
Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or they can call me directly at the Vineland Schools, Winslow School. If they sell it directly, it's $15. Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com is a little bit more. You can get more details at my website, www.outskirtspress.com/watchme. And also in that book, my website, groups.msn.com/Riana Milne, and EPIC, the organization, epicthemovement.org is Alexi's charity. So those will be up on the screen for everybody, or please call me. My extension's 3766 through Vineland Schools.
Well, Miss Riana, it was nice having you here.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
And please don't forget to look up her book, Watch Me, The Bold New Motivational Attitude for Personal Success, can be found on book websites. And that's all the time we have. Thank you for watching the Art Schools program on Channel 13. I'm Ryan Gavigan. Stay tuned for more quality educational programming.